Have you ever wondered how croissants are made? These flaky, buttery pastries have become a beloved breakfast staple in many parts of the world, with millions consumed daily. From their humble origins in Austria to their popularization in France, croissants have a rich history and an even more fascinating production process. In this video, we'll take you through every step of how they are made in a modern factory, from the sourcing of raw materials to the final product that reaches your local bakery or supermarket shelf. The journey of a croissant begins long before it reaches the production line, with the careful selection of high-quality ingredients. The main components of a croissant are flour, butter, yeast, sugar, salt, and water. Each of these ingredients plays a crucial role in creating the perfect texture and flavor that we associate with a well-made pastry. Let's start with the flour, which forms the base of the dough. Most manufacturers use a specific type of wheat flour that has a protein content of around 11 to 13%. This protein content is crucial as it determines the amount of gluten that will develop in the dough, affecting the final texture of the product. The wheat used for this flour is typically sourced from regions known for their high-quality grain production, such as the American Midwest, Canada, or certain parts of Europe. The wheat is then cleaned to remove any impurities before being milled into fine flour. Interestingly, some artisanal croissant makers prefer to use stone-ground flour, believing it retains more of the wheat's natural flavor and nutrients. However, in large-scale production, roller-milled flour is more commonly used due to its consistency and longer shelf life. The butter used in them is perhaps the most crucial ingredient, responsible for creating the characteristic flaky layers. High-quality butter with a fat content of at least 82% is essential for achieving the desired texture. This butter is often sourced from regions renowned for their dairy production, such as Normandy in France, or certain parts of New Zealand. The butter undergoes a series of quality checks to ensure it has the right consistency and flavor profile. Some manufacturers even create their butter blends specifically for croissant production, combining butter from different sources to achieve the perfect balance of flavor and texture. Yeast, another key ingredient, is typically sourced from specialized yeast producers. The type of yeast used can vary, with some manufacturers opting for fresh yeast for its superior flavoring properties, while others use active dry yeast for its longer shelf life and ease of use in large-scale production. The sugar used in croissants is usually fine granulated sugar, chosen for its ability to dissolve easily into the dough. The salt is typically fine sea salt, valued for its pure flavor and lack of additives. Both sugar and salt play important roles not just in flavoring them, but also in controlling the fermentation process and strengthening the gluten structure of the dough. Water, while seemingly simple, is also carefully considered in production. Many manufacturers use filtered or purified water to ensure consistency in taste and to avoid any unwanted minerals or chemicals that could affect the dough's behavior. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on our upcoming videos. Once all the raw materials are sourced and delivered to the factory, they undergo a thorough inspection process. The flour is sifted to remove any lumps or foreign particles, and samples are tested for protein content and moisture levels. The butter is checked for consistency and flavor, often being taste tested by trained professionals. Yeast is tested for its activity levels to ensure it will properly leaven the dough. All ingredients are stored in temperature-controlled environments to maintain their quality until they're ready to be used in production. The first step in the actual production process is the mixing of the dough. This is done in large industrial mixers that can handle hundreds of kilograms of ingredients at a time. The flour, yeast, sugar, salt, and water are combined in precise proportions, which are often closely guarded secrets of each manufacturer. The mixing process is carefully controlled, with the speed and duration adjusted to achieve the perfect dough consistency. Too much mixing can lead to overworked gluten, resulting in tough output, while too little mixing can result in underdeveloped gluten and output that lack structure. Once the dough is mixed, it's allowed to rest and ferment for some time. This fermentation period, which can last anywhere from 30 minutes to several hours depending on the recipe, allows the yeast to begin producing carbon dioxide, which will help create the airy texture of the finished croissant. It also allows the gluten in the flour to relax, making it easier to work within the next stages. During this time, the butter that will be used for laminating the dough is prepared. It's typically chilled and then beaten or rolled out into a thin sheet. The exact temperature of the butter is crucial. It needs to be pliable enough to spread evenly, but not so soft that it melts into the flour mixture. After the initial fermentation, the mixture is ready for the lamination process. This is where the magic of the croissant's flaky layers begins. The dough is rolled out into a large rectangle, and the prepared sheet of butter is placed on top of 2/3 of the mixture. The remaining third of the dough is then folded over half of the butter, and the other side is folded over that, creating a package of mixture with a layer of butter in the middle. This package is then rolled out again and folded in thirds, creating more layers. This process, known as a turn, is repeated several times, usually 3 to 6 times depending on the recipe. Each turn creates more layers of flour mixture and butter, which will eventually form the characteristic flaky texture of the croissant. Between each turn, the dough is typically rested in a refrigerator to keep the butter cold and allow the gluten to relax. The entire lamination process can take several hours, with periods of rolling interspersed with periods of resting. In large-scale production, this process is often automated, with machines capable of precisely rolling and folding the flour mixture. However, many high-end producers still prefer to do this step by hand, believing it allows for better control over the final product. Once the lamination process is complete, the dough is rolled out one final time into a large, thin sheet. This sheet is then cut into triangles using large industrial cutters. The size and shape of these triangles are precisely controlled to ensure consistency in the final product. The triangles of dough are then ready to be shaped into the classic croissant form. This is often done by hand, even in large factories, as it requires a delicate touch to achieve the perfect shape. The wide end of the triangle is slightly stretched, and then the flour mixture is rolled up towards the pointed end. The ends are then curved inwards to create a distinctive crescent shape. Some varieties of croissants may have additional ingredients added at this stage, such as chocolate or almond paste. These filled products require an extra step where the filling is carefully placed on the dough before rolling. After shaping, the produce is placed on baking trays and moved to a proofing room. This is a temperature and humidity-controlled environment where the shaped dough is allowed to rise. During this time, which can last for several hours, the yeast becomes active again, causing the flour mixture to expand and create an airy texture inside. The proofing process is carefully monitored, as underproofed dough will be dense and heavy, while overproofed ones can collapse during baking. Many factories use automated systems to control the temperature and humidity in the proofing room, ensuring consistent results. Once the croissants have properly proofed, they're ready for baking. Before entering the oven, they're often brushed with an egg wash, which gives them their characteristic golden brown sheen. The ovens used in commercial production are typically large conveyor belt ovens that can bake hundreds of croissants at a time. The temperature and baking time are precisely controlled, usually around 190 degrees Celsius for about 15 to 20 minutes. During baking, the layers of butter between the dough melt, creating steam that separates the layers and creates a flaky texture. The heat also causes the yeast's final burst of activity, making it rise even more in the oven. This is known as oven spring. As the croissants bake, the Maillard reaction occurs on their surface, creating the complex flavors and golden color associated with perfectly baked pastries. The aroma of baking is one of the most enticing smells in any bakery, and in large factories, powerful ventilation systems are often needed to manage the intense buttery fragrance. After baking, the produce is allowed to cool on racks. This cooling process is crucial, as it allows the structure of the product to be set properly. If packaged while still warm, the residual heat and moisture could make it soggy. These tunnels use controlled airflow to cool the croissants evenly and efficiently. The packaging process for these varies depending on their intended destination. For produce that will be sold fresh in bakeries or supermarkets, they're often packaged in simple paper bags or boxes that allow them to breathe while protecting them from contamination. These are typically packaged by hand to avoid damaging the delicate pastries. For produce intended for longer-term storage or transport, more advanced packaging methods are used. An interesting fact about production is that some manufacturers have developed par-baked croissants. These are products that are baked only partially at the factory and then flash frozen. They can then be fully baked at their final destination, allowing shops to offer freshly baked, without needing full bakery facilities. The storage and distribution of croissants is a crucial final step in the production process. Fresh products have a relatively short shelf life, typically only a day or two at room temperature before they begin to lose their desirable texture. As such, they need to be distributed quickly and efficiently. Many large bakeries have their fleet of delivery vehicles, often making deliveries in the early hours of the morning, to ensure shops have fresh products available for breakfast customers. These vehicles are typically refrigerated to maintain the quality of the products during transport. For longer distance transport, croissants might be shipped in refrigerated trucks, or even by air freight for international distribution. The global market is substantial, with millions consumed daily around the world. France, the country most associated with croissants, produces over 1 billion annually. However, the popularity of this has spread far beyond France, with significant production and consumption in countries across Europe, North America, and increasingly in Asia. The fastest-growing market for this dish in recent years has been in China, where European-style bakeries have become increasingly popular in urban areas. It's a journey that combines centuries-old baking traditions with modern food science and technology, resulting in a pastry that continues to delight people around the world every day. Fresh croissants being broken, showing the flaky pastry, being eaten at breakfast in cafes, stacked shelves, different countries having croissants, clips of how it started and finished. If you enjoyed learning about how croissant is made, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content on food production.